Welcome to the Zarlequan Infamous! Today, we are honored to have a global leader and transformational success coach dedicated to helping individuals turn their fears into intentional bravery. As a celebrated public speaker, best-selling author, and host of 2 podcasts, we are excited to talk about her latest book, Fuck Fearless, Making the Brave Leap.
Unleash your potential.
Please welcome Heather Vickery to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Brittany.
You are so awesome. I've been watching you online.
Oh,
And you look so natural on stage, like you belong there, and like you're so comfortable. I was just telling you how I keep being asked to do these things, and I'm like, yeah, just hold on longer. And I have not said yes yet. So
well,
how do you feel comfortable?
I'll let you in on a secret. And that's the secret is I'm not always comfortable, and also lots and lots of practice. The answer is I said yes to showing up, even when I didn't feel ready to say yes to showing up. And I learned along the way, and I gave myself a lot of grace for maybe not doing it the way I wish I had or the way somebody else did. Because the more you do it, the more comfortable you are doing it. So you got to just kind of jump in there. It does help to have a support system. I am a coach. I have coaches, mentors, things that help you find your own empowerment. So there are resources to help you with that. But the key is really, you just got to say yes.
It's so funny because I've been on stage, because I've done acting, I've been in bands, and so I can do that. I'll still do that right now. But going on stage and being like super vulnerable and authentic and like going, this is my passion, what I've created, and let me share it with you. That seems super intimidating.
Well, it is, right? Because it's different. If they don't like a character you're playing, the character is what they're rejecting, not you. But if we're going out there and we're telling our own story, what brought me to writing this book, what this book is about, my process, I talk about coming out of the closet after a decade of marriage and 4 kids. And like, it is really easy to be terrified of what people are going to think of us.
Yeah.
What I tap into, and I think can be really helpful, is if there's one person in the audience who can see themselves in me, who can see something they hope for themselves in my journey, then I'm in the right place, saying the right thing at the right time. And there's almost always somebody who calls after I've been on a podcast or emails me or stops me after I've been speaking and says, wow, I struggle with X, Y, and Z, or I feel that too. I'm really honored. Thank you. You inspired me. So, your people are out there and they're waiting for you to show up.
That's encouraging. So just say yes, no matter how you feel. And then you're kind of forced into this schedule now. And now you're there and you're sweating and you're stuttering. And I don't stutter, but now I stutter.
So first of all, you're putting a lot of expectations on something that you don't know. Like, that's how you think you might feel. You could surprise yourself. We sometimes don't know. But also, you do want to prepare to some degree, right? Whether it is just making sure you have your talking points built out, or if you're actually speaking on a stage. It's different on a podcast because usually it's a conversation and people are going to ask you questions, just like you're asking me questions. And then you can answer those questions and you can be honest, and maybe things can be edited. You can be super human, which is a nice reminder for everyone in the audience that they also get to be superhuman. And there's all sorts of other ways to prep. I certainly have done a lot of training. I have a coach on call program where I support clients kind of in the minute, where I go, okay, let's do some NLP work, neuro-linguistic programming work together. Let's do EFT tapping. Let me guide you through a visualization. There are techniques that you can do to calm yourself, to put yourself in a specific mindset, that can really help shift your energy and how you show up in a space. So you got to say yes. And then you want to take care of yourself and be ready and have your talking points and know that you're probably never going to 100% hit the mark. That's going to be okay. Got to be a little flexible.
Nice. It's funny. So there's a study I've been looking at. It was done on anxiety. What they found was anxiety and excitement feel the same in the body, and
Correct.
you can tell your brain which one you want to experience.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm certified in positive psychology and leadership coaching and NLP. And some of the things that we learn and all of those where they overlap is that physiologically your body definitely doesn't know the difference between excitement and fear. It's your brain that tells you the difference. And the fact of the matter is your brain is usually not telling you the truth. It's very manipulatable, right? Either stories you tell yourself or things you've seen or heard or experienced, you create your truth, right? Like what you believe to be true will be true for you one way or the other. So
Right.
that is where so much of the work I do comes in helping you shift the narrative, shift the story. And NLP, we can literally change memories. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but it doesn't have something that's always felt negative. We can find a way to change it so that it feels empowering instead of negative. So there are all sorts of resources. Our bodies are so cool and they're so smart. And if we can start listening to what we know is true, finding our foundation of truth and trust from inside of us instead of always looking for outside answers and outside resources, that's when magic really happens.
That makes sense. So, I want to hear, well, what inspired you to write the book? Did you have fear to get on stage and then you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so the book, which is called Fuck Fearless, Making the Brave Leap, I was like, you never know if somebody's going to go F fearless or if they're going to go all the way in. I love cursing. In fact, I joke if you like curse words, exclamation points, and lesbians, you're going to love me and you're going to love all my stuff, including my book. If you don't like those things, that's okay. There's somebody for everybody. So the Brave Method, the book breaks down the Brave Method. The Brave Method is my approach to problem solving, dreaming, designing, building, and actually having a life that you're in love with, right? And so I started doing all of the things. I got certified in all of these areas. I transitioned from I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life, but when I came out, when I burned my whole life to the ground, I shifted into coaching and speaking and mentoring because it was obvious that's what the universe wanted from me. People were seeing it in me long before I saw it in me. And I kind of terrifyingly embraced that and said yes to it. I was definitely afraid. So much of that work revolves around redefining what the word brave means, right? So I want what's called a revolution of bravery, where what may not seem brave to somebody else feels incredibly brave to you. That thing counts. So that first podcast you say yes to, that's brave, my friend. It is brave. And showing up is brave imperfectly and exactly as you are, because that's just the way we have to do it. So I started doing all of this coaching, speaking, hosting workshops, doing all of that. And the Brave Method was formed, right? These are all the things I was doing. And then I'm like, oh, I need to find a way to share this with the world. So the book is part memoir, so my own stories, part case studies of either clients that I've worked with or people I had on my podcast that represent different elements of the Brave Method. And then that's part action. So we call them Brave Action. So things you can go out and do right now to step into your self-worth, your self-knowing, your inner bravery, redefining it all on your own terms. Success is personal. What is going to make me feel like I've been successful today or this week or this month or this year is quite likely very different than what's going to make you feel that way or anyone in the audience. And we don't know what those things are if we don't take the time to pause and reflect and ask ourselves and do the work. And that's what I'm here to help people do, is to get into themselves, to get to know themselves, get real answers, and then take intentional action instead of just barreling through and waiting. You're always responding if you're doing that. You're not in charge. You're not the lead actress in your own life. You're not the CEO of your own business and your own life if you're just responding all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the book. It took a long time. I actually did this particular book. I did the first draft of during NaNoWriMo several years ago. So I'm what they call a pantser. Like I'm a rebel, because Nano is usually for novel writers and this is a nonfiction book, but I did it. And then I'd let it sit for a whole year. I didn't touch it for a whole year. And then I went back into the editing and got really excited. And the book has been so well received. And it's such a joy to have it out there. And I think I'm ready for another one, but it's such an all consuming process. It's taken me a minute. So I have the concept for the new one.
Well, this is a deeply personal book, though. So what was your process? Because I mean, I understand, like I write fantasy books, and so I'm like, ooh, I can go into another land, but this is deeply going into yourself. That's a completely different. How do you go about writing this?
Well, to be fair, like I said, what one person thinks is success and brave, another person, it's like not a thing. I couldn't write fantasy to save my life. Like I am an avid reader. I read about 125 books a year. I love novels, and I'm amazed at all of you who can create those stories and who can put that together. And it isn't me. It's just not me. But the work that I do revolves around me choosing to stand in my power, to take up space, and to tell my truth so that other people can discover their own truths. And I know that to the bottom of my heart and all through my body. So putting this out here was a way for me to help people see themselves, discover themselves, and trust themselves. So it was deeply personal. I did sit on it for a long time. I had a lot of support, but for me, it was just something I knew that needed to be shared and that would make a difference for people.
That's amazing. I think you're right. I think
Thank
a lot
you.
of people, yeah, need some help with a little bravery. Maybe
Yeah.
in just certain aspects of the too, not even
100%. 100%. It's all, I kind of do my whole approach to life and to business and all of it has sort of been a choose your own adventure path. When I do one-on-one coaching, it's coach on call and bite size. So instead of being tethered to, weekly calls, I have reinvented a whole new way to do that. My Spark Collective is an $8 a month membership that's literally bite size for exactly what you said. Little 15-minute or less ways to connect with yourself, to embrace your bravery, to build up your confidence, to give yourself compassion or love, maybe connect with community if you want, maybe not if you don't want, right? Like all of the ways you want to do it, because I felt so overwhelmed with information coming at me. I just want to tell everybody, like, take what you want from any of your mentors, any of your guides, me, Brittany, anybody, take what you want and find a way for it to work with you. The creating the Spark Collective was really important to me because I wanted something everybody could afford and everybody could afford the time for. And as a consumer, when I want to calm myself or jazz myself up or, get ready for something, build my confidence, or when I'm not trusting myself enough or my intuition feels a little wacky, I want to do it wherever I am. If I'm in the car waiting to pick a kid up from school, if I'm in the bathtub, if I've got 5 minutes before a meeting, I want to do it quick and wherever I am and whenever I want. So it was really important for me to create that for other people because I know I'm not the only one who wants that.
so you were
You okay?
talking about, yeah, I'm like
Feeling feelings. It's okay. Feel the feelings.
I do have feelings though.
Let
I've
them
been a
out.
little bit I don't know, like I don't know, just this conversation, I don't know, it's hitting me. I don't know
I'm
why.
glad. I'm glad it resonates. Yeah.
So but I was wondering because so growing up, my parents were very strict. There was no discrimination in our house. Like whatever anyone, whatever someone looks like, whatever they choose to look, do with their lives, it's not your business. You can either be their friend or not be their friend, but it's none of your business. So that's just
Agreed.
kind of like how we were
Live and
raised.
let
So
live. Yeah. That lucky
right.
you.
So well, and I grew up in East Texas where it was that
Oh,
was not the
your
norm.
parents were rebels. That's brave if you
Yes.
ask me. Yeah, I
They
love
were
that. Yay for them.
they were very much the opposite. So, you were talking about how I think you were married and then you realized that you were a lesbian.
Yeah.
Is
Yep.
that what, so I'm
That's
like,
the story.
but
I
then
came out at 38.
it sounded like you were saying that it kind of destroyed everything in your life. Like it kind of blew everything up. And
Ah,
so I'm like, but it seems like in this day and age, having a lot of people come around to accepting things. And so then I'm
yeah.
like, oh, is that still I'm
Well,
sorry, but
destroyed is a really interesting word. It's
okay.
fascinating that that was the word that that sort of came to you. I would definitely not say that. It did blow things up, but
Blow things
sometimes you
up.
have to blow things up in order to build new things. Certainly, I didn't get married to get divorced. And I
Right.
joke, like it maybe if I found the lesbians in college, my story would have been different. But I wouldn't change anything. I love my children. I love the lessons I've learned. I don't think I'd be here doing the work that I'm doing if I hadn't been through the journey that I've experienced. But, you know, when I first came out to myself, I kept it to myself for a while because I didn't know what to do with that information. And then it came out to my then husband, and we immediately tried to find ways to make it work because you don't get married to get divorced. That's not the plan, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I didn't want to ruin my kids' lives. I didn't want to rock the boat. I was still very much in the space that I think so many people find themselves in, where it was easier to please everybody but myself than it was to put myself first. And
Right.
there's one particular moment, I was just going through it and I felt so small, Brittany, and I had a hard time taking a full deep breath. And um, I was so sad all the time. My therapist was like, "You're not a depressed person. You are in a depressing situation. There's a difference." And I'm so
Difference. Yeah.
no, all the love to all the people who are experiencing any portion of that spectrum. But it was just a really difficult time. And I was sitting around the breakfast table with my 4 daughters, and my youngest was a little bitty baby at the time. And I looked at them and I thought, what would I tell them if they came to me in a similar situation? What is the advice I would give them? And the answer wasn't, well, suck it up, live with it. You made your bed, now sleep. The answer was, go out and be you. The world is waiting for you to show up. Whatever that looks like for you, you're going to change things, but you've got to be honest about it. And in that moment, I realized if I wanted that for them, I had to choose it for me. And I would not for 1 second tell any of you who are listening that that has always been easy. We are a decade out from that now, and it is still hard. And my kids are sometimes still really angry at me for the divorce, not for coming out. They're very understanding about that, but it did change their lives. And we all have to find a way to make it work. But I thought, an alive mother was a better option than a
Mm.
married one who was half dead. That's what I thought. That is still what I think. And so I was very lucky, actually. Almost everyone in my whole world was wonderful and receptive. And it was very self-affirming, but it was hard. And I really did have to blow it all up. I had to go, okay, wait, I've had my own business for 18 years. Can I now be the only income? Can I support these kids and pay my mortgage? And I bought my own, at 38, I bought my own car on my own for the first time in my whole life. I went from my parents helping me buy a car to buying one with my husband,
Right.
right? Like, I am incredibly proud of the fact that for the last 10 years, I have been thriving, even though maybe it's not been off the charts financially, but I have been successful and thriving and doing the thing and honest and showing up about it. And that works for me because I have conversations like this, because I talk to people and I tell the truth and I say it's not always easy, but it is always worth it.
That's really awesome. A lot of these things are the exact same things that I talk to my kids, and that's when it comes to like how I'll be treated, in a relationship. I always think, I don't like this, but would I allow my child to be treated this way?
That's
No,
right.
no.
And what I always say right before we started recording, they aren't going to listen to you, but they are going to watch you.
Mhm.
And it's important. And I would say that, not that our kids don't ever listen to us, but listen, I have 3 teenagers. They're not listening a lot because they have to have their own experience, right?
Yeah.
We all do. And that's why, as a mentor and a guide and a coach, I don't often give direct advice. I help you find your answers inside yourself. And that's the best thing we can do for our kids, but they are watching. And my
Mhm.
audience is watching, and my clients are watching, and my community is watching. And so I have to practice what I preach. And if I don't practice what I preach, nobody's going to buy any of my shit because it's bullshit. So
Mhm.
I say to you, do the thing that you would want them to do. It will
Mhm.
change your life.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, where can we find your book? I'm assuming Amazon.
You can find it on Amazon. And for a surprise, they're actually selling it for full price. I usually say don't buy it on Amazon, buy it from me directly because I'll sign it for you and tell you how much I love you. But it costs more because I have to charge for shipping. You can buy it on Amazon, and any support is wonderful. But if you go to vickeryandco.com/shop, you can get my book. I also have several journals out, gratitude journals, manifestation journals, and my Create Brave manifestation cards. So if you buy any of those things, I will put a love note in for you. I will sign them. And also if this lit you up at all, you or any of your listeners, seriously consider checking out the Spark Collective, because for $8 a month, this is what we do. What we just talked about, this is what I help people do in a small bite-sized way. And it's because I want everybody to have access to this. So I would love
For
to have you guys check
$8 a month.
$8, $8 a month. Yes, $8 a month. That's it.
That's less than Canva.
It's less than Canva. It's less than a really big specialty venti coffee from Starbucks. You know, if you get the oat milk and the pumps and the extra shots. And it really is designed to be bite-sized when you need it, where you need it. It's worth trying it for yourself. It's worth showing up for yourself for, 5-10 minutes a day. That's it.
Wow. I think that's actually really incredible. I think that actually works into how we work as a society, because a lot of times it's long coaching sessions where, it's an hour and a half and you're like,
Absolutely. It's exhausting. It's exhausting for me too. So I'm certified in human design, and I'm for anybody who knows that about human design, I'm a projector in human design, and we are designed to rest first. So that kind of approach, I just couldn't give my best self to clients all the time. So I knew that wasn't sustainable. I used to do that, but also I'm not the only one that wants it quick. Look, we're in we want things immediately, and ADHD, quick brain. And those things aren't going to change. Like, they're just not going to change. I can sit. Earlier today, I was in a mentor session where I pay to be in this session. It's a 2.5-hour session, but I don't want to do a lot of that. And I do a lot of other stuff where it's quick wins and quick reward. So I created Spark really intentionally for folks who want to do that. So, just go to my website, vickeryandco.com, and check it out. And if you have questions, you guys can reach out to me. I'm like a whole real person. I respond to every single email. I respond to everything on Instagram or Threads or TikTok, because I want you to be seen. I see you, and I want to celebrate your wins. I want to help you see yourself and trust yourself and love yourself, because we all win when you win.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm a manifester in human design.
Of course you are. I love that for you. So that is interesting. Oh, I have so many thoughts. I do beautiful custom human design readings as well. But I'll just say this to you. You're here to share information. Drop it like it's hot and then walk away. What people do with it is not your business or not your concern. But if you don't say yes and show up, you can't inform. You have massive gifts. So I invite you to find ways to share them. That's so exciting.
That's awesome. So what is your human design? What do you charge for? What was that?
Yeah. So the custom human design readings are, they're really special. So I spend several hours with your chart, and I pull all kinds of stuff, and I put together a presentation that's usually somewhere around 21 to 25 pages long. And then we spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours together. I share it all with you, and then I coach you. So you can talk to me about your real stuff. I coach you through how these things can show up in your life. And it also includes a week of coach on call access, so that as you have more questions or you want to dig in, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it. So it is an investment. It is a $500 investment, but I'll tell you a secret. I guess it's not a secret if this is going to air on Sunday. I'm offering a holiday special. I like to break the rules. Black Friday is like one day, and I think that's dumb. So for a whole month, I am offering $100 off. So I know that $400 sounds like a lot of money, but y'all, I spend hours doing this. So any of you who know how important it is to get paid properly for your time, it is so worth it. And you guys can get that right now. If you go to my website and look for the holiday sales, you can save $100 on a human design. So it's a little different, right? Because that is a ton of my time up front versus Spark, which is, a little bit more intentional, a little bit more bite-sized, but partnering them is really a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, yeah, together that would be really amazing.
Really amazing.
Do you have
Come do it
package
all.
deals like that?
Well, Spark is $8 a month. What I normally offer, actually, this is interesting too. All of my Spark members get 10% off of anything that I do, off of my books, all of my products, all of my one-on-one coaching, my coach on call stuff, any programs that I do, retreats, anything like that. So an automatic 10% off. But if you are a Spark member, that's a good question. If you are a Spark member, you get what I call my friends and family rate for the human design reading. So you get it for $350. So that's even bigger than the regular price. So you could join Spark and then book a human design reading with me and totally save a lot of money and also like completely shift your life completely.
That's amazing. We're going to put your links in the description as well so that it's easy. If you can't remember, you don't have to worry about it. Just click on the link in the description and you can find all of these amazing offers that she just offered today. Awesome. Thank you so much. This was such a good talk.
It was so good. It was so much fun. Thank you so much.
It seems today have a multi-talented individual whose diverse career spans newspapers, digital media, healthcare, content marketing, and leadership in a global trade association. As a self-published author, Karl shares his unique journey in books like Anchored in Tradition, a research-based exploration of the United States Naval Academy, and Bringing Katie Home, capturing the heartwarming notes from his trip to bring his adopted daughter home from China. Now he's working on a tentative title, Flying High, Diving Deep, Life as a Military Academy Parent. Please welcome to the
Conversations with Indie Authors.
Parent. Please welcome to the show, Karl Smith.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So that's, like I was just saying, that's a whole lot going on. You do quite a lot.
Yeah.
Where did this all start? Take us back to the beginning.
Sure. I often tell students, I came to my university time with a very simple goal. I wanted to cover the Denver Nuggets for the Denver Post. That was the objective. And I often tell them that I failed miserably. Never happened. But, I always loved writing and I always loved creating. And what I learned in my time in newspapers and as that evolved into other parts of media is what I liked doing was building things and I liked creating things and I'd like to explore. So all of those things have followed me, whether it was newspaper design, which I spent a lot of time doing, working in digital startups, helping to build digital platforms for different organizations, diving into the produce industry, and now kind of back into higher education where I work with student media. I've had a career that's been about building things, about disrupting things, and about changing things. And that's kind of the roller coaster bob and weave path that I've taken to where I am today.
So you adopted your daughter. What made you write a book about it and share that with everyone?
Sure. So we decided to adopt. We went through a series of miscarriages and false starts. And to be honest, I wrote a lot about this when I was working digital in Philadelphia. I just looked at my ex-wife at the time and just said, there's one thing the world doesn't need. It's more people. There's plenty of them out there. And frankly, we're Americans, we buy things. So, we went to China and I thought, if there's one thing that communist countries are good at doing, they keep the trains running on time. I knew there'd be a very set process. And China was really, at the time, wrestling with its one child policy. They had the overabundance of females. So, we just kind of went through the grueling paperwork to make that happen. And really, and when I ended up publishing, when I say my notes, it was literally my notes. I didn't do any rewriting. I didn't write it as a narrative. They're the notes I took from the time I got on the plane to the time I got back. And I just wanted to capture that, one, for my daughter. It's something I think a record she should have. But I also think I think it's interesting for people to see that process, beyond the paperwork, beyond the immense expense, the emotional roller coaster we went through in those 2 weeks. I was there with my mother-in-law and my stepmother to collect Katie, and it was really difficult. It was a really difficult experience. Obviously, ended up fantastic, but I think a lot of people think, oh, you kind of fly over to this country, you pick up this child, and all of a sudden the fairy tale continues. And it was not that. It was not that at all.
Now we have to pick up the book to see what it was.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So have you had a lifelong, what has sparked the military books?
It's my kids, frankly. My father-in-law and my father both served during Korea. My father-in-law in active combat in the Navy. My father famously lied about his age to get into the Marines, to go into bomb disposal, which should tell you everything you need to know about my childhood. And both kids, my son, and again, two different kids, two different paths, two different experiences. I think the spark for my son was lit as part of the Boy Scouts. Our troop attempted to visit each of the major military academies, one per year. So if you were a scout for 4, 5, 6 years, you would hit all of them. We went to West Point for a camping trip. I think that intrigued him, but it's when we went down to the Naval Academy, and I think he saw that setting, it really hit him. And again, it's his one grandfather was in the Navy, the other in the Marines, and they all come out. The officers come out of the Naval Academy, and there was a moment when we were walking by the chapel, which of course is one of the icon. In fact, that's on the cover of my book. It's such an iconic visual, and there were some midshipmen or recent grads, tough to tell, practicing the sword ceremony after a wedding. So, they come, the bride and groom come down the steps of the chapel, and the officers raise their swords, and then the couple walks under. It's really dramatic. And I'm watching my son watch this, and you can see the gears turning. And it just, at one point, he said, I think I want to apply the Naval Academy. Now that's all he did. He didn't apply to ROTC. He didn't apply to West Point. And even though we went, my son is an avid outdoorsman. He loves camping. He loves hiking. We went to the Air Force Academy on our way to the Philmont High Adventure Boy Scout camp. And I thought, well, this is for sure. This will change his mind. He loves the mountains. He loves it. And it didn't hook him at all. So it was the Naval Academy, and his backup school was a Division III football school in Oregon. And that was what he was going to do. He was going to play football in Oregon. So it was all for him. It was all or nothing. And his journey to the academy was a grueling one, very difficult. My daughter, I think, watched my son, and as much as my son would complain about how difficult things were, and they were difficult, don't get me wrong, especially those first 6, 8 months. I think she saw the opportunities he was getting. And she's also, she's a very linear thinker. And I think she put it all together and said the balance between sacrifice and opportunity was worth it for her. And she also had this, and she wrote about this a lot in her essays and when she had her congressional interviews, the kind of, I don't see the requirement, but the opportunity to serve the country, and a country that gave her all these opportunities. She knows her background. She knows what awaited her if she had stayed in China. And I think she realizes what a break she got by being able to get out and come to America. So for her, the opportunity to kind of pay back is something I think was very strong with her. So she, counter to her brother, applied to West Point, applied to the Air Force Academy, applied to the Naval Academy, applied to the Coast Guard Academy, and applied for ROTC through all the branches. In her mind, like being a military officer wasn't a possibility. It was what she was going to do. I don't know that she's going to serve, a career in that, but that's definitely, she went with the objective she thought and said, and what she would say, whichever branch will have me, that's where I'm going.
Did you have military experience prior to your children?
I have held a gun one time in my own hands, and that's only because when my stepmother passed away, she gave me my father's 357 Magnum to give to my son, and that's the only reason I ever held a gun. No interest, and have continue to have no interest in it whatsoever. So no, there was nothing from me. And I'll say this, and I've said this multiple times. People will often say to you, you must be really happy, your kids are at these academies. And what I will say to them is, I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them. If it were up to me, my kids never would have left home. My son and I would be playing Madden in the basement and, whatever. But that's, the thing with your kids is when they decide they want to do something, it's their life. That's what they decide they want to do. You encourage, you make sure they've thought it through. My role was to help them take all the considerations into their thinking. Here's some of the things being a military officer means. And my son was very good with my daughter, saying to her multiple times, don't get enamored with anything other than there's only one reason to go to a military academy, and that's to become a military officer. If you're going there for any other reason, you're going for the wrong reason. So that was it. Once they both kind of had their minds made up, then as a parent, your job is, like it always is to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's difficult though, because I think we all do want our kids to stay home.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you hear about all the insanity that's happening in the world, my son is now a submarine officer, and he was just about to turn over when the conflict broke out between Israel and Gaza. So you have no idea, of course, OPSEC, you have no idea where your kids really are. You think but you don't know. And you don't know what they're up against. And he will tell stories about things that happen on a deployment, and you're like, your eyes get really wide. And his first deployment, he said, listen, you're not going to hear from me for a couple of weeks. I said, okay, great. Well, I hear from him a couple of days later. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, we had a small fire on the sub. I'm like, wait, what?
No. Like, no.
No, he goes, it's not a big deal. I'm like, it sounds like a big deal. You're submerged in a metal tube underwater and there's a fire. That sounds like a problem. Yeah. So it's but I think that's the balance. In one way, shape, or form, I think every parent has to wrestle with that, right? What does your kid want to do? What's their ambition? And they, I've often heard if they say that, if your kids feel confident enough to go and literally leave the nest, and in this case, around the world, then you've done your job. So the good news is you've done your job. The bad news is you've done your job and they've flown the nest.
Yeah, that's, I think, the hardest part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is all new for you, in a deeply personal stories that you're sharing with people. That's really difficult, but I think it's also probably very helpful for others that are going through the same thing.
Yeah. So I've maintained the last several years 2 blogs, but I started one when my son, I think, was in his first or second year at the Naval Academy, and really it was strictly therapeutic for my own self-interest, to write about things that were happening with the midshipmen and my son's experience. And then I started another one with my daughter when she went to the Air Force Academy. And what I found is that you're exactly right, that sharing the experiences has been helpful for me, but I've also found other people have connected with it as well. And I think the best example was a mom posted on Facebook. This is going back several years now, probably 5 or 6 now that I think of it, that her son had voluntarily left the Naval Academy. So I reached out to her and I said, listen, I know this is raw, but I think other parents could really benefit from you sharing the story. And bless her, she asked her son, he said, I don't want to talk about it, but you're certainly welcome to. So We had a long conversation. She wrote me an exceptionally long email with all the details and the back and forth and the emotion of it. And to this date, it is the most viewed thing I've ever written on that blog. And every month, and this is going back 5 years, I'll see dozens of people will find that piece, because and I think a lot of people have this belief that your kid gets accepted to West Point or Annapolis or the Air Force Academy. And I've used the image from Willy Wonka of the kid holding the golden ticket, like they've got it. It's from here, it's a unicorn, spitting Skittles flying through the sky at Disney World. It's all sunshine and roses. And the fact of the matter is, it's incredibly hard. Getting in is difficult. I mean, the acceptance rate at these institutions is in the single digits. But once you get in, the work just starts. It just becomes more difficult. And that piece, I think, resonates with a lot of parents, because every kid, I have a very talented author by the name of Susan Weisberg, who wrote this brilliant series of books, Chester Midship Mouse. So she documents the experience of the Naval Academy through the eyes of a mouse, and it's brilliant. But she uses this phrase, the dark night of the soul. And every cadet, every midshipman, whether it's a moment, an hour, a day, a month, they have that dark night of the soul where they doubt that they've done the right thing. Are they up for this? Are they cut out for it? And when you hear that, when you hear that as a parent, it's a challenge, because your kid has achieved this, achieved something so few are able to. And I've written many times about my son's induction day at the Naval Academy. He had an incredibly difficult route, multiple rejections, multiple waivers, finally got in. And at induction day, you kind of sign off on him. He left at 8:00 in the morning. We hook up with him after he takes you both to office, and we're, the Blue Angels just flew overhead. It's a beautiful day. You're thinking, this is the greatest day of our lives. And he walks up, his eyes are red. He's not crying, but he's choked up. And he says, I don't know that I can do this. And, all the air gets sucked out of your lungs, and you're thinking, what now? What do we do now? How do we handle that? So I do think writing about it is cathartic for me, but as I've written over the last several years, I find that parents, they can, some of them take solace out of it. I think some of them see things that they hadn't anticipated. So anyway, that's a long rambling way to say, yes, it is. Writing about it, I think, is helpful. I hope it continues to be helpful for parents, for sure.
So have you started a group for parents to join? And
that is not my strong suit. I write a lot. I share a lot on Facebook. There are many parents groups for at any of the academies that are very helpful for that kind of thing. I know they'll do like commissioning 101. So a lot of these groups will do those meetings for kids that help parents get through the commissioning processes, which is what happens when they graduate. They commission as officers. My interactions have mostly been one-on-one. People, I get a lot. I'd say a lot. I consistently get messages through Facebook, especially, or people will comment on my blog, or they'll send me an email and ask me specific questions. And I had one mom reach out to me. God bless her daughter. She had a concussion. She was an athlete and had a concussion, and really worked hard, to kind of work through it and get back on track during her plebe year, her first year at the Naval Academy. And it was recommended that she take a leave of absence, which most often is kind of an exit ramp. When they put you on an LOA, very rarely does someone come back. And, we had multiple phone conversations. We traded emails, and, I encouraged her as best I could. And at the end of the day, her daughter ended up taking the LOA. But, at least she was able to talk to somebody. I've had, I get a lot of plebe parents will reach out, the struggles their kids are having, to try and talk through that. And, that's, at the end of the day, that I think that's the most fulfilling thing, is to know that not only what I've written and what I write resonates with people, but they feel like they can make that connection, that there's actually a person at the other end of the line that they can reach out to and ask for help. So that's been very fulfilling.
Nice. So where can we find your books?
Sure. Both books are available on Amazon. Anchor to Tradition, which again is the research-based book on the Naval Academy. Bringing Katie Home, which is the collection of notes from my 2 weeks in China, collecting her. And if I can get over the hump on this last book, again, Flying High, Diving Deep, tentative title. I'm hoping upon hope that by the time January gets here, that will be also available on Amazon.
Okay. But you're still not sure of the title yet.
I don't want to commit to it till I get the thing done. I feel pretty good about the title, and I'm about 50%, 60% of the way through it. But yeah, I don't want to commit to that till I get over them, because when you're writing it, something will fall out of the sky and totally change your track, and I don't want to quash that. You might want to quash that.
I can understand that. And where can we find you online?
Sure. The best place to find me are the two blogs, mykidthemid.com and mykidthecadet.com. The former focuses on the Naval Academy, the latter on life at the Air Force Academy. And I failed to keep those updated in the last month or so, but I have a feeling with November coming up, with between the holidays and what we call the dark ages at the Academy, it's probably time to shake off the dust and get those back and active again.
Oh, good. I hope that gets inspired, because it sounds like it's doing quite a lot of good work.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm not that much well, my husband was in the military for 20 years, but I'm like, my kids, don't you dare. That's the only thing that you never want to do your whole life.
Yeah, it's up to them at the end of the day, right? I mean, if you had told me when my son was 10 years old he would be, the anti-terrorism officer on a submarine, I would have laughed it off. But I'm not laughing about it anymore.
Right. I hear you. Absolutely. Well, thank you. It was awesome meeting you, and thank you for being on today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Are you an independent filmmaker or aspiring creator with a passion for storytelling? Imagine joining forces with like-minded visionaries to create something extraordinary. Introducing Film Fusion Unite the Vision, a groundbreaking cinematic collaboration like no other. 9 individuals or groups contributing a 10-minute segment coming together to craft a full-length cinematic minute masterpiece. Collaboration brings innovation, the meeting of minds, a fusion of talents, and a chance to learn, grow, and inspire. Here's how it works. 9 individuals or groups, each with their own unique style and storytelling, come together to embark on a collective journey. Each contributor creates a 10-minute segment that fits within the overarching narrative. These segments combine seamlessly, forming a cohesive and unforgettable full-length movie. When you join Film Fusion Unite the Vision, you get more than just a segment in a film. You get a platform to shine. You'll experience networking, learning, and a chance to build your creative portfolio. Are you ready to unite your vision with others, creating a cinematic masterpiece? Don't miss this opportunity. Join Film Fusion Unite the Vision and be part of something extraordinary. Let's unite, let's create, and let's inspire the world with our stories. Together, we are Film Fusion. Unite the Vision.
The Zarlequan Indieverse.